Hello and welcome to the Rank and Flank podcast. I'm your host, Finton. These are my co-hosts, AJ, and two new co-hosts, Mark and Ben.
Hello.
Hey, how's
Hello.
it going?
Since we've got two new people on the podcast today, I think we should start off by having them introduce themselves. How about you go first, Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark. I am the
only legitimately Irish person at the table.
Yes.
That's not true. Technically, Finton and I are both Irish citizens, but we don't sound it. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
I'm Mark. I collect Dark Elves, always have, love them.
How long have you been collecting Dark Elves?
Since I was 13. I started off with them, destroyed a whole bunch of plastic miniatures with plastic glue. Thankfully, the metal ones are, very much recoverable with the whole, nail polish removing the super glue thing. But started off with them, moved into 40k when no one really played fantasy. Still loved them. Tried to, make up little scenarios and that sort of stuff around the kitchen table and all that. With ice pop sticks and not really following the rules, but having fun. So it was good enough for me.
This is how you play Warhammer at age 13.
Yeah, exactly.
When there's no internet. Anyway, keep going.
What's a terrain?
What's a terrain? Exactly. Oh my gosh.
That's what you put the tea bags in. So I got into 40k after that, and just been kind of collecting it on and off since then. Old World came out again, and just enjoying it.
Jumped in with both feet.
Yep, 100%.
Awesome.
Ben, what about you?
Hi, my name is Ben. It's short for Benedict, but nobody knows that. That's like a deep secret.
Now the whole world knows.
The whole world.
Now the whole world knows. Yep. I'm actually quite new to the old world. I had the miniatures and read the books and had a lot of friends who were into it as a kid, but I was always more of a 40k guy. The three of you I actually met because we have an RPG group, and has it been a year that we've been playing the Warhammer Fantasy RPG?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm the GM for that group. So it's actually interesting to talk to you where I'm not pretending to be like a goblin or some sort of cockney, some weird tavern keeper or
Some strange man living in the sewers.
Yeah, strange, but a lot of people. There was a lot of sessions that we had that took place in the sewers. Yeah.
You can pretend to be those things if you like. I mean, that's
Oh
okay.
no, I can't keep it up for that long. So yeah, now's when you find out that I actually have no personality and nothing interesting to say when I'm not pretending to be someone else. Yeah. And I'm currently building and collecting dwarves and Empire. Those are sort of the two armies that are drawn to me. I've been painting like crazy since the old world came out, consuming a lot of content, getting really into it. So excited to talk about it with the three of you today.
So coming off of 40k, you decided to go for the two factions that have the most guns.
Yes, exactly.
Pretty
yeah.
much what I was thinking too.
Oh, and I am from England. I'm from a place called Coventry. I am actually technically also an Irish citizen. I've got my foreign birth registration, so yeah, it's just
There we go. We got 4 Irish citizens around the table.
Yeah.
There we go.
Woo.
all the Irish listeners are getting pretty angry right now. But yes, it's great to be here with all of you, and I'm excited to talk everything at the old world.
Yeah, cool. So, jokes aside, what is it about dwarves and Empire? And then I'm going to ask you about Dark Elves as well. But what is it that you like about those armies?
I like I feel like in the old world, different armies have characteristics. Dwarves have the characteristic of holding grudges and being kind of grumpy and really stuck in their ways. And I really like that about them. I think that's reflected in their units. I mean, their crossbowmen are called quarrelers, which is a great example of, it's really thematic. And I also I do like guns, like Finton said. I like cannons, I like war machines. And in the case of the Empire, I think I collect them because we played Warhammer Fantasy RPG, and that all takes place in the Empire, and so I sort of fell in love with it. All the grit and the disease, and they're sort of the stocky underdogs, even though they probably have the most troops in the old world. I don't know how that works law-wise, but they are the stocky underdogs. They're pretty weak. They don't really have anything to them apart from a few wizards and some war machines. But they're
Tanks.
going up tanks, yeah. But they're going up against demons, and they're going up against elves, and they're going up against undead, and they're still somehow just fighting it out, dying, and it's all misery.
See, you say that because you don't have any demigryphs.
No, they're so hard to find. Those models are so hard to find. If anyone in Ireland is selling demigryphs, please let me know, because they're really hard. And if you do buy them, they're 10 times the retail price. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, no doubt they'll get reissued, and then you'll be all about demigryphs.
Oh yeah, it's my full demigryph army. Hopefully they release the army of renown, which is just demigryphs and griffins, like a bird themed Empire army. I'd love that.
You get all the bird-headed mutants and things.
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah, there's the loads of bird-headed mutants.
So, Mark, what about you? What about why the Dark Elves?
Much like the Night Lords, there's kind of like a bit of an undercurrent of just desperation to the whole faction. You can see that in like the Night Lords omnibus, and you can see that in like the start of the Dark Elves leaving. I think it was Nagarond was the original place, and with all that kind of, their original place of what do you want to call it?
Ulthuan?
I think was it Nagarond in Ulthuan? Is that it, or I can't remember.
There's
exactly.
Nagarond and Nagarai, and I get them confused. And one is in
Nagarai
Ulthuan.
is where Lethonar, the Everking or whatever, is from.
Right.
And then Nagaroth is where the Dark Elves live now, which is north of Lustria.
Yes. And when they arrived there was nothing there. So that's where the whole slave thing comes in. So just the whole idea of evil, but also, has nothing really going apart from evilness, desperation, and, cowardice. I don't know. It just appeals to me. It's maybe it's a bit more relatable, like sort of being a town of snakes.
Well,
as they say.
All right. Well, look, obviously Tim isn't here for this episode, or normally will be ongoing, and the main reason behind that is, the least well kept secret is that Tim actually runs our local gaming store, which is Mountain Gremlin Games, and he spends way too much of his time running the store and providing places for us to meet and play. Like, that's how we met. We met through the game store. And so it doesn't actually get an awful lot of time to play. So one of the reasons why we invited Ben and Mark here was like, well, these are the guys we're playing Warhammer with on a week-to-week basis, and as well as role playing. So we kind of wanted to geek out with our gaming buddies. But just want to send a big shout out and a thank you to Tim for the first 5 episodes. A plug for Mountain Gremlin Games. If you're in the Wexford area, you probably already know it. But if you're in Ireland, I think he ships all over the country, and he's got a pretty good selection of miniatures and terrain for the game. So check it out. Was he mountaingremlingames.com?
Pretty sure, yeah.
I think he is. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thanks for those intros, guys. I'm sure that you probably heard our intros about the armies that we were interested in playing. So I don't think we need to go over that again, but it kind of does make me want to do that again. But
a little bit. Things have changed slightly.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I was obviously a Wood Elf player is kind of my primary army, and I was going to do Orcs and Goblins because I've got some nice 3D models for them. But I think my first take on it was I didn't want to have to build and paint a whole bunch more Wood Elves to try and adapt to the new game. And now that I've been playing with the Wood Elves again, I mean, like, maybe I will build and paint a whole bunch more Wood Elves. That seems okay. So watch this space. I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to go, but...
I can stop building Wood Elves anytime I like.
What about you, buddy? What's changed for you?
Well, I was initially going to start this edition with Beastmen. That didn't really work out for me, as I kind of had a similar playing army in a Warriors of Chaos army that I had converted over from Kings of War. And that army kind of fulfilled the whole, run-in, bash-face Chaos army feel that I wanted from Beastmen. I didn't have Minotaurs, but I was satisfied with that. And then I found these really amazing models of Tomb Kings by Raven Twin Miniatures, which are all Japanese-themed. And I fell in love with that range, and I've been wanting to print and paint that so much that I don't even care what they play like at all. And they've been like my number one hobby thing for the last couple of almost a month and a half now. So,
yep. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing them on the table.
Me too.
I'm not. I don't want to play against Tomb Kings. They seem too strong. Just kidding. They seem really cool. And the fact that you can bring back your units from the dead is
Very balanced.
yeah, very balanced. Yeah,
It's not cheating at all.
No.
but I mean, this is kind of a spoiler for what we're talking about later. But at least they did finally FAQ the Necros things. Necros Sphinx.
Yeah.
Sphinx.
It's actually a good segue, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So the first thing we're going to be talking about this episode, aside from introductions and things, is going to be the FAQ that was released on the 9th, I believe.
Sounds about right.
9th of April. Changed a whole bunch of things, introduced a whole bunch of questions that are still unanswered, but generally is the FAQ that's not been, the worst out of all the FAQs we've gotten so far.
I feel like it's kind of the Batman of FAQs. Neither the FAQs that we wanted or needed, but the FAQ we probably deserved.
Alrighty, so moving into the Town Crier, as we were just saying, we have a new FAQ with a lot of changes, which addresses a couple of balance things indirectly, as well as a bunch of questions that we've had about the game over the last couple of months that have gone unanswered for a long time. I think we should just go over each, significant change. Like, there's a lot of changes in here that are just kind of like, fire and flee, you can only do this if you have missile weapons on the unit, etc. Which are just very minor changes, but there's some more significant ones. For example, with drilled, that's a really big change. We've been arguing over on our Discord for the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
With now you can activate the drilled, redress the ranks before you charge.
Yep.
Which is a really big deal.
Kind of what we thought it was meant to be, and we were right on that one. I was pretty glad about that. I think so. So it's kind of divided into the errata and the FAQ, right? So the errata for the main rulebook, most of them are about clarifying if you've got some kind of movement rule it's a lot of them now say if the majority of the models have this rule. So reserve move, fire and flee, evasive, they all got errated for that. Interestingly, Swift Stride consists entirely of models with that rule. So it got clarified to be everything has to have Swift Stride or you don't have it, which, again, makes sense, right?
It's like using the slowest speed of the model in the unit.
Yep. Yeah. And then they also kind of clarified chariot runners to be majority of the models have this special rule. The biggest one for me in the errata was the combat result bonus for close order. So now it says if you've got a close order formation with a unit strength of 5 or more, you get the +1 combat result point. So that means now your monsters who have 5 wounds or more all get +1 in combat, which I'm happy about, right? That's
absolutely.
My tree men are now a bit more effective.
Flip side of that is, go ahead.
I was going to say people are definitely going to forget that, because people already forget so much stuff when they're adding up combat results. That's going to be one of the ones that slip first. But it's a nice clarification. I'm glad that we got it.
It is going to emphasize, Dragon Lords a lot more as well, though. We're going to probably see even more, generals on griffins and chaos lords on dragons running around with loads of magic items, which has been a big theme in this edition
so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the chaos. I think we're going to see 2 chaos lords on dragons. Well, who knows how many will.
You can only take 0 to 1 chaos lord.
Yeah, I meant we've got 2 warriors lists coming to the tournament tomorrow, yeah. And I'm pretty sure
we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
There were, however, a couple of indirect nerfs to, not actually indirect nerfs, but just magic items and things, which are no longer able to go on models that are not infantry or cavalry. So this means that you can no longer put the bedazzling helm on a lord on a dragon. Or Mark, you brought up earlier about
the blood armor, same deal. It does seem like they haven't tried to do it. If it's armor, essentially, it got hit by this. If it's something like a shield, no. I think high elves have is Bedazzling Helm chaos thing, or is
Bedazzling Helm was a
it's
universal.
common.
universal?
Yeah.
So for high elves, I think there's a couple of ways they can get around it, but they might have gotten hit for one of their suits of armor. I'm not sure, but they can still put on a fancy helmet and have some sort of valor rule or something like that. Not really a physical object, whatever it is. It's more like a like one of
Special rule.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
That's in the magic item section somewhere, something like that.
So there's a couple. I think a lot of it is to make sure that you can't get a 2-up armor save on the dragons. I believe the Bedazzling Helm gives +1 to your armor save. The blood armor, wasn't that a +1 to your armor save for each model you killed?
Yes, for each wound you inflict.
Yeah.
So they could just shoot at a bunch of things and then go into close combat with a nice 2+ save.
Yeah,
You
which
did
is
that against me. I actually remember in the game where you did that and you
Manticore.
killed all of my my backline when I was playing dwarfs. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
but
But
he
I'll
wa-
never have to face that.
Was he on a dragon?
It was on a Manticore.
A manticore?
It was like a
Same
baby
same
dragon.
Baby
deal.
dragon.
Yeah. On a monster.
Yeah. But having 2+ armor saves on lords on dragons is going to be a lot harder now.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Which is good.
Absolutely.
Because the Lord, like being toughness 6 or 7 in the case of the high elves, is bad enough. And then, a 4+ or 3+ armor save, 4-up or a 5-up ward. These are all, and then however many wounds, like a lot of them are on
Like 9
8,
wounds,
9
yeah.
wounds, right? They're very difficult to kill.
And it did seem like, aside from being an extremely effective unit, some people were calling it a points denial. The fact that it was so literally ridiculous to kill, you're just not going to. So you get it down to 1 wound, that's fine. It hides behind a hill or a tree or something, then that's 500-600 points that you're just not going to be able to get for your army.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing can hide from wood elves.
They can definitely hide from cannons, though.
The problem is that wood elves can't do any real damage to them. That's the
They
downside.
can dance around them with the war dancers.
Yeah, that's it.
With the huge changes to cannons in this edition from 8th, monsters have just been so difficult to kill.
Yeah.
And having, Dragon Lords with a 2+ armor save that nothing can hurt is kind of ridiculous. A 3+ is a little bit more reasonable, and I think we're going to see more of that now.
Yeah. So 3+ armor save. I think, if you think about the ways to deal with high toughness stuff is usually to hit it with poison, right? Not everything can get poison, but a lot of stuff can.
Particularly wood elves.
But wood elves, but also orcs and goblins, lizard men. There's a bunch of different armies that can get it. If you've got a 2-up armor save, it's kind of like you're invulnerable to that almost, right? But with a 3-up, it's like, okay, well, I got to get, every 3 shots that goes through, one of them's not going to be saved. It's tough though. Like, I don't think I think it's a very useful change. I don't think it's going to change what the meta is right now. I think we're still going to continue to see lots of lords on dragons or big monsters.
Absolutely. Probably until like the Dwarf Arcane General rolls around and now all cannons do 3d6 wounds out of nowhere.
Yeah, so that is it. Like you were saying about from previous editions, the cannon change is a double whammy. On one hand, the cannon is doing fewer wounds, and on the other hand, they changed the ridden monster rules, so now it's a combined profile in terms of wounds. So they've gone from being a monster that only had 6 wounds that you could potentially just shoot the monster off, and then the character's standing there on his own.
Or vice versa, you could shoot the character off and then
The monster goes rampaging.
Yeah.
With 1 cannon shot because it was doing D6 plus 1 or whatever. Now
it was d6 plus 3 or something ridiculous. It was
Well, I think the great cannon was doing more, and then the regular.
it was a huge amount of damage.
It was a lot of damage. Now they're like D3 plus 1, and the model has 8, 9, 10 wounds. So, yeah, it's definitely a big. I like that they have made it so that they can't be quite so tough. I think that's good. Good for the game.
Yeah. The canon change, honestly, I feel like might have been a little bit of an overcorrection from 8th edition. Like in 8th edition, you didn't see any monsters pretty much ever in any high-scoring lists. But now it's...
Ridden monsters.
Yeah, ridden monsters is the thing.
Yep.
Now you just see nothing but ridden monsters in every list that's winning.
I think that's deliberate. because I have a feeling that they want to sell more ridden monster models
rather than more cannons.
rather than more cannon. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other stuff in the FAQ to kind of go back to it. So the frenzied versus or impetuous. So does a unit that has to declare a charge due to being frenzied or impetuous have to do so if a friendly unit of skirmishers lies between it and a potential charge target obstructing its movement? Well, the answer is, if there is a chance of the skirmishers moving so that they are no longer an obstruction, if they declare a charge, for example, yes. Otherwise, no. So if they can see it at all, and there's only another unit blocking and that unit could declare a charge, then you're going to have to make your impetuous roll, and or your frenzied unit is going to be charging. So yeah. So that is, I mean, frankly, I thought that is how the rules should be interpreted based on what was written, but it's definitely making the game a bit trickier. So if you think about it, like you've got a frenzied unit, you literally, they have to not be able to see the other unit at all, or they're going to have to declare a charge. Even if you could potentially have 2 or 3 units in the way between them and something else, and as long as they've got the range to get there, they have to declare that charge.
What's funny is it kind of passes on the frenzy to the skirmisher that they're going to be charging, through, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Because let's say you've got like a unit of frenzied minotaurs or something, and then you've got a unit of skirmishing ungors, just the first units I thought of.
Yep.
Skirmishing ungors trying to block their line of sight. There's a little gap. The minotaurs see a thing that they can charge. The ungors then have to charge something else to get out of the way, and then the minotaurs charge in.
Right, or charge the same unit, or they don't move at all, and then the minotaurs get a failed charge.
The ungors have to attempt to charge.
No, it doesn't say that.
If there was a chance that the skirmish is moving so they are no longer... that is weird. That is so weird.
Yeah. You do not have to declare the charge. So basically what's going to happen is your minotaurs are going to get all revved up and start to charge, and then the ungors are like, what? We're not moving.
See, if this was really lore accurate, the minotaurs would just eat the ungors as they're passing over.
Yeah. And I think if you were playing very Beastman-like in your approach, you would just charge the ungors off in some other direction. It's I'm going to see how that plays out tomorrow because I'm taking Wild Riders. Obviously, they're frenzied, so we'll get to that a little bit later. They clarified about the chariots. So you can put, like, for example, a high elf character. He can be mounted in a sky chariot. And so it's like, well, does that mean it's ballistic skill 6 shooting now? The answer is no. Even though you've got this really great archer guy up there in your chariot, it's the crew that's firing.
Yeah. Men, shoot that thing. Because I said so, you're now more accurate.
I'm so much better at it than you, but I'm not going to do it because I'm more important than you are. So,
Ooh, you want me to touch that? Gross.
Exactly. Let's see. I think most of the rest of the stuff in the main rulebook, let me see.
They specify that spears can attack even if the model in front of them dies.
Yep. I mean,
that's how it's playing anyway.
Total sense. So, yeah.
It's a good specification, though.
Yeah. So so now we're on to the question mark kind of FAQs. So with the first FAQ, we were a little baffled about, when you charge with your lance and then there's a fallback in good order and it counts as a charge when you are then following up. Are they still using their lances or are they using their hand weapons now? And the FAQ the first time around didn't really clarify that very well, I don't think. So they've given it another go.
I think they've also kind of failed this time.
I think they have. I think this is not great. So if my unit loses a round of combat and either gives ground or falls back in good order, can it choose to use different weapons in the next turn if the enemy made a follow-up or pursuit move? No. So that's the one around, like, you have been charged. I don't think they even changed the other one.
The funny thing is about this ruling here,
Yeah.
if it gives ground or falls back in good order, it can't choose different weapons. So that means, it says no. You're never allowed to change weapons during combat. So, weapons that can't be used in the first round of in the second round of combat or beyond, like lances or flails, does that mean that you just don't get to fight for every subsequent round?
Right. Yes.
Or do you continue using the +2 strength even though you're not getting the charge anymore?
Yeah, it's confusing. So the actual answer that they give here after the no, they say, even though the units separated momentarily, they remain locked in place and engaged in ongoing combat once the follow-up or pursuit move has been made. Okay, that makes sense. Then they clarify, which says, in other words, because the combat is ongoing, neither unit is able to swap one weapon for another. That's the really confusing part, because, does that mean now that I'm because I count as charged, and I've followed up, am I still using my lance? Or in the case of, where I actually care about it, like is with the Wild Riders, they've got a cavalry spear. In the first round of combat, the cavalry spear is +1 strength. In the second round of combat, they get to fight in an extra rank. Which am I doing? Right?
What is a round of is there subsequent rounds of combat in this edition? Because every time, things bump back.
Yeah, I assume that's the case. But the exact wording, everything comes down to the exact wording, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Games Workshop is never good at exact wording.
Right.
I love this game. It's great.
Yeah. Yes. But they tend to not have great sort of technical writing, more story narrative writing. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Are there any other big major changes in this FAQ?
Drilled. Did we talk about that?
We did mention drilled.
Talk about it now.
Right, so drilled is... it's been changed, so now whenever a unit that is frenzied or impetuous has to charge out of a marching column that has drilled as well, they can use drilled to redress so that way they can actually make the charge. Marching column has also been changed a bunch, so it now works as we all thought it should rather than the restrictive way that didn't make any sense. So you can declare a charge in marching column and then use drilled to redress out of marching column, then make your charge and kill the thing that you charged. It also is just more useful for dwarves now, I think, because I think some of their units had drilled. So they can now make their whole 9-inch march in the first turn and then make their charge with their 3-inch, like with their full front rank rather than being in marching column.
Yep.
Which is very useful for dwarves.
Yeah, I think so. I think dwarves, they can finally do something,
Using marching columns, they can move a little faster than someone who can just walk in a normal formation.
Right, they can actually get down the battlefield, which is a real struggle for them. Sorry, I just wanted to look up that rule about the hunting spear. A hunting spear can only be used during a turn in which the wielder charged. In subsequent turns, or if the wielder did not charge, the model must use its hand weapon instead. So...
That's not a cavalry spear, though.
No, it's the hunting spear. And this is what the Wild Riders use. And so I'm like, okay, so when I do a pursuit move into fallback in good order, it says I count as charged. So am I still using the hunting spear?
It also says in subsequent rounds of combat, though. And it counts as a subsequent round of combat. So it's both yes and no, which is,
right.
Why an FAQ exists and they failed to answer the question.
Wonderfully confusing. Yeah. So there's a couple of other things from my perspective that I think were a bit of a miss. Not in the main rulebook FAQ, but in the Forces of Fantasy, Ravening Hordes.
Is this when you're going to talk about the bow of Athol Loren?
Oh, God.
I can see you twitching from across the table.
I'd forgotten
Yeah.
about that one, too.
It was a bad one.
Yeah,
It's a real
so
stinker.
I have no problem with things being ruled to be less powerful than I would like. That is fine. What I have a problem with is things being ruled stupidly. So the Bow of Lauren allows a Wood Elf character to make a number of shots equal to their attack's characteristic. How does this interact with enchanted arrows? Right? If any Wood Elf archer can take one of 5 different enchanted arrows. So when firing an enchanted arrow, it is assumed the model is firing only once, as is the norm. Therefore, one of the shots fired from the Bow of Lauren can be made using an enchanted arrow. The other shots are resolved using ordinary, i.e. not enchanted arrows. So,
Does this mean Swift Shiver Shards no longer work?
well, no, what it means is Swift Shiver Shards,
I don't mean just for the Bow of Lauren. I mean in general.
just period.
Swift Shiver Shards give multiple shots too. The first shot is made with the enchanted arrow. The second shot cannot be made because you're no longer making it with the enchanted arrow.
Yeah. So just the idea that he's got 2 quivers of arrows is like, okay, first one, I'm going to fire my magic arrows that I've got an unlimited supply of for the battle. But the next 3, I'm going to fire with these regular arrows. Like,
Maybe he just puts them all in the one quiver and he just accidentally picks out,
yeah, always the first one. With the magic.
25% of them are enchanted.
Yeah, that's what it is.
God, boy, I sure hope this arrow is poisoned. Nope.
Exactly.
It'll do something.
Exactly.
And it just makes the game play slower as well.
Right, because now you have to roll a different dice.
Okay, this one is the Swift Shiver. These are, well, it doesn't matter for Swift Shivers, but like this one's the Hagbane tip. And
Yeah.
then these are all the, like, it's
Yeah, exactly.
annoying.
It is annoying. So yeah, wasn't terribly happy about that. I would much rather have them just said, if they wanted to make sure it wasn't overpowered, that they just said, no, they cannot be used with enchanted arrows. Boom.
Or even
Period.
specifically, cannot be used with Swift Shiver Shards, 'cause that's the one that everyone cared about.
Well,
But like,
I mean, I would quite happily take it with Arcane Bodkins
right,
as well.
and that would make sense.
Yeah.
Because, he's got a whole quiver full of them, like every other archer.
Right. Anyway.
We give fewer enchanted arrows to our lord with a really nice bow to make sure that everyone else gets a chance to be cool, too.
Very humble.
Anyway.
Elves being known for being humble.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that was the only one that I think.
It's the worst change.
Yeah. I think they did some FAQs about the lance formation.
Oh, yes. Now every model in the opposing unit counts as being in contact with, or it counts as being in every model in the opposing fighting rank counts as being in contact with you.
Yes.
So if you charge into a unit of Chosen of Chaos, for example, they get to make all of their attacks, even though only one model's in direct contact,
Yes.
which is great for me.
Yes. So it does mean that the lance is, while it's very strong on the attack, you're also going to get beaten back
By anything with 2 attacks or more.
Yeah, right. First they have to survive, right? So assuming you're charging, which you should be if you're the Batonian player.
I've also just realized this encourages even more line hammer. 20 wide unit, all of them get to attack with all their attacks.
Yeah.
Yay.
I don't know. Can I digress about Linehammer for a minute?
Please, yeah.
If you think about having a 20 wide model count, right? With their 25 millimeter base, that is if I'm doing the math right, that's 40 centimeters wide, right? 400 millimeters. Is that right?
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
25 times 2 times 10? That would be 500.
500?
Yeah.
500. You're right. 500. That's even wider. So if you try to wheel with a 500 wide unit, you're going to get to go about maybe 10 degrees at most. So really all you can do when you have that big line is kind of move straight forward and move straight, back. So you know, I think reforming and out into that line when you're about to get into combat, sure, whatever.
Or when you're charging with drilled, which now works.
Right. You know, by all means do that sort of thing. But, you know, the wider you are, the more likely you are to encounter terrain pieces and so forth, assuming people are actually putting terrain on the battlefield. That's another thing I've noticed when I've been looking at battle reports and stuff like that. Is like, here's 3 pieces of terrain on the whole battlefield.
I worked really hard on all of them, including the cardboard box.
You know, I don't want to diss people for
absolutely
not having terrain. But, you know, the game really, maybe this is just the Wood Elf player in me. I think it really needs to have terrain to be tactically interesting.
Yep.
Anyway.
I do think the I think the last few times I think when we were playing, Ben, like the raised hills, you know, for the artillery, that was like, you know, I would never play without a raised hill now.
Well, as a dwarf player, me neither. I would, in fact, I wouldn't play without one in my deployment zone. I'm just boycotting all of those games in advance. But yeah, they're really good to have. It totally changes the game when you have artillery, which is, I mean, not artillery, sorry, when you have scenery, which is sort of a core tenet of Wood Elves as well. Is you can greatly affect the battlefield with that your magical forest that you sprout from the ground at the start of every game.
And a second one you can bring in with your signature spell.
Oh, they can do 2? I didn't know they could do 2.
Yeah, well,
it's kind of a forest. It's a template that counts as a forest, I'm pretty sure.
It's a vortex, basically.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And you can be a 3-inch forest or a 5-inch forest, and it remains in play.
So it can be dispelled immediately at the start of the next person's turn.
It
That's not environmentally friendly at all.
Stop dispelling the forests.
Just for theatre of the mind purposes, how does that look in if we were on the battlefield? How would that look if you just sprouting a forest on the ground? Does it grow really quickly, or does it, you know, poof? Oh,
it grows really quickly.
Wow!
Bursting forth from the ground, the mighty oak grove takes over the battlefield, and then a wizard waves his hand and it goes away instantly.
It withers and dies and makes all the Wood Elves angry.
Well, that would still provide cover. No, it just disappears.
The actual thing about the Lighthammer thing, I think one more case would be maybe you know, the way you can only shoot in your front rank.
Yeah, it's mainly for ranged units, right? The Linehammer thing is you see what are the skeleton archers in a row of like 12 or quarrelers in a row of 12, because there's not really that much point unless you're on a hill in having a back rank for ranged units, because you're not moving them anyway for the most part. So that's typically where I see it.
Yeah. There's an exception with volley firing units, because that lets you have a more compact line, which is nice for Lothern Seaguard, I guess. Do they have volley fire?
Is that the one where you can shoot in the half of the back rank?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like, that's nice. And it's particularly nice for the Tomb King's cohorts, the mixed melee and range units, which are very cool, and I really want to run them. They can always volley fire even if they move. So they particularly have a nice thing of having multiple ranks, because they have to, because that's how the unit's built. But it's very niche to have multiple ranks in a range unit. So that is where Linehammer emerges a lot.
Yeah, I think you know, as a player who has a lot of archer models, I've just started taking the models in smaller units.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll see. We'll talk about that when we get to the tournament parts.
Talk about our lists, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else actually in the FAQs that we wanted to rant about or bring up?
Not really for me.
No, I mean, I'm kind of upset that maybe it's just me because
the Mace of Hellstorm, and also
the illusion. Sort of meta.
And also for the Necrosphinx.
Yeah, so there's 2 big things. The first one is that the Necrosphinx, rules as written, you were able to make all of your attacks with this. What was the weapon called? Do you remember?
Decapitating Strike.
Decapitating Strike, and it was like Strength 10.
Strength 10, AP4, Heroic Killing Blow.
Yeah, and people were using that at tournaments and stuff like that, and it's obviously way too strong, and obviously not how it was intended, but of course, rules as written, it did seem like that's what you could do. So they've fixed that in the FAQ, and the other thing is, we don't really have that much of a competitive scene we do have a competitive scene, but it's still burgeoning, it's still growing. We don't really know what's really strong and meta right now, but one thing that a lot of people were doing was taking illusion wizards in the Empire, they were using the Mace of Hellstrom. I think in other armies, were they using the Ogre Blade, like goblins with the Ogre Blade?
Yeah, some big sword.
Yeah, and they were
The ogre blade, which is stronger than the giant blade.
Yeah, but Mace of Hellstrom had two profiles, and one of them you did, was it D6 attacks or something like that?
Well, it was the normal number of attacks, and then you could swap it for a single strength 10 attack.
A single strength 10 attack. Okay, and people were using that with illusion wizards on the spectral doppelganger spell, and just putting a wizard on like a Pegasus. Or running them into the enemy and doing an insane amount of wounds.
Because they would make 2d6 attacks with the profile of their weapon, but it doesn't say that they only have to make one of those attacks with the really strong thing.
Yeah.
So they would make 2d6 attacks with the strength 10 profile, which is silly.
It is silly, but it was very funny.
Yes.
And
and it's been FAQ'd out now, which is fine. You're going to have to rely more on those pigeon bombs rather than any silly wizardry shenanigans.
Look, pigeon bombs and witch hunters all day. They are I will find a way to make them work, but yeah, the RIP to the Mace of Hellstrom wielding wizard that charged into the biggest enemy. I mean, to be fair, it was one of the few dragon killers that the Empire had that was actually really effective. And I will fondly miss that particular combination.
An old guy on a horse is a better dragon killer than a tank.
Yeah, better dragon killer than a tank, than a steam tank, than 3 great cannons.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Anything you want to bring up, Mark?
I don't think there's anything else really I can think of.
They did do some minor changes across all the legacy PDFs as well.
Yeah, sorry, this kind of brings back to the Blood Armor thing. Yeah, so it does seem that basically, some kind of indirect nerfs where we're seeing stuff that could be taken by any kind of lord or character or hero has now just been, only an infantry or I think it was cavalry you mentioned, Ben, could take it. So it's happened to Blood Armor, and it seems to have happened just kind of across the board. I think the Beastmen have some strange situation where a lord, because of this rule, like a lord, if they go into a chariot, they can't take like chaos armor or something strange like that. I could be confusing a few different things here, but there is some sort of weird edge case that wasn't thought through. But now Beast Lord can't take something that it probably should be allowed to take if it's
We'll take a look at that in a little bit, I think. Yeah, there's a couple of changes that have been across the legacy lists because Games Workshop doesn't want them to ever be effective because they don't want people to buy those models. It's probably the hidden reason behind everything.
But I mean, what's really nice to see is that so I've been keeping an eye on what tournaments are running, and I'm pretty sure every tournament that I've ever seen, with the exception of the one that happened at Warhammer World, has allowed legacy armies.
Yep.
And that's making up 50%, 40% of all the attendees as people using demons or dark elves. Vampire counts is still incredibly popular, as they've always been, and that's quite nice that the community has sort of said, yeah, thanks for the PDFs, we'll be using these in every single tournament, and they're winning tournaments. They're pretty strong. I don't think, with the exception, I mean, it's hard to tell at this stage, but they all seem, winnable. They all seem like armies that can win tournaments, even in competitive play.
Skaven are a little under, but other than that...
Skaven, yeah, maybe ogres. I don't know about ogres.
Because Skaven can't have dragons.
It's true. Neither can ogres.
Yeah, but ogres have a lot of monsters.
Yeah.
Skaven are kind of light on ridden monsters.
Yeah, they don't have they've got the giant rat.
The
Hellpit Abomination.
Hellpit Abomination.
Well, yeah, they've got like the really big rat that the warlord can ride on, though. I think, like Throt the Unclean rode on one.
Oh, yeah.
Storm Fiends, that kind of thing.
No, they were just really large actual rats.
Is that in the
I don't know if they're in the Legacy PDS, but there was a thing in
haven't
the
looked at
7th
it.
edition book. So
There are some things that are missing, and I think Vermin Lord is missing from Skaven.
Storm Vermin, the souped up rat. Are those in there? The rat ogres that have like
pretty sure.
the Bane ones.
Storm Fiends.
Storm Fiends, that's it. Yeah,
Those are from the End Times, so
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
End Times is in
which is a shame because those models are really cool. I love those
because they're all
models.
AOS. things.
They're all Age of Sigmar.
I did hear they made one exception for demons, but they're kind of like a bit different because anything from the End Times for the demons probably always existed or something like that.
I don't know.
What was? I don't know. I'm not familiar with demons. Ben, do you know anything about this?
No, I don't. I've read the demon lists a lot, and I have still yet to play demons. I also collect demons. That's my 40k army, and they look really fun. But no, I haven't heard anything that's sort of from the End Times. But
It could have been something late into, the 8th edition or something like that, or before the end times. I can't remember. I thought it was something like Blood Crushers or something didn't exist until.
Oh yeah, so they've changed out all the Discs of Tzeentch, Steeds of Slaanesh, and Blood, Juggernauts of Khorne things. At least in terms of mounts that you can get, they're all just called Demonic Mount, and they're all on the same base size, same stats now.
Oh, okay, that could be it.
Yeah.
Which is a big shame because those are really cool.
Yeah, well, you can still have the model, but you just don't get the specific rules.
Yeah, which is kind of lame, but it does mean that we don't get any more, Disc Lords, which I hate. In 8th edition, there was a really easy to pull off magic item combo that you could get for your Chaos Lord. Stick him on a Disc of Tzeentch, give him a magic item that gave him a 3+ ward save. 4+ ward save, and then he takes the Mark of Tzeentch, which gives him, I think, a +1. And then there's a magic item exclusive to people with Mark of Tzeentch, which lets him reroll 1s for ward saves. So you had a 3-up ward save, rerolling 1s.
And a 1-up armor save.
And a 1-up armor save, which is just
It
ridiculous.
was gross, yeah.
I mean, you can still take the Disc of Tzeentch. It's a 20 points option for Heralds of Tzeentch.
Right, for
But
demons.
Yeah, but it doesn't give you very much cool stuff.
I'm happy that the Disc Lord is gone. And that was like 200 points. It was stupid cheap. But
Yeah.
I'm sad that we don't get, Lord on Juggernaut or anything.
Well, I think...
We don't have Blood Crushers anymore, or Skull Crushers anymore.
Yeah, they're gone. So we'll see what happens, right? I think I don't think anybody really predicted that they were going to take the Beastmen out of AOS.
Yeah, that was an amazing.
Well, just following cause there's a few YouTubers I watch who are playing AOS, and they've sort of like, oh, this is coming. They knew for sure that Bone Splitters, which are the Savage Orc army, are going, and a lot of people were saying, oh, Beastmen are definitely going. And it makes sense because they're now in the Old World range, and that's part of the announcement that they said they're moving back to the Old World.
Yeah.
And obviously it really sucks for all the Age of Sigmar players.
Well,
Great for anyone who wants to buy a Beastman army now.
Or we're
Yeah.
going to get those Age of Sigmar players to come and play Old World.
That's a
One
friend
of the
mine,
two.
in Roscommon, he's rebasing his Beastmen. They're his jam, his main. Like, always absolutely loved them, and he's rebasing them now. So
From the stats I've seen, like Beastmen are good too in this edition, which is surprising to me based on what I read when I was, the edition was new. I think a lot of it's just monsters are great, and Beastmen have a lot of monsters.
Yep. I have heard the only thing they lack, but I think it was maybe Mountain Miniatures mentioned it, that the only thing they lack is a dragon. Other than that, they have an answer for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing really well for faction without a dragon.
You don't need dragons to win.
No, orcs don't have dragons. They've got wyverns, which are weaker dragons, and they're doing pretty good.
Yeah, because orcs are the best.
Orcs are their best, and they also have these crazy little goblins with swinging things that will destroy an entire block of infantry on their own and then disappear for the rest of the game.
When we get our hands on the Orc Arcane Journal, we can have a whole episode about that, I think.
Oh yeah. There's the Troll Horde, and there's the Nomadic War, which is cool. It wasn't what I was predicting. I mean, this is kind of a tangent.
We did talk about that in our last episode, I believe.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they didn't have the Savage Orc army, which is what I really wanted.
Because they're getting rid of Savage Orcs as a thing.
Yeah, Bone Splitters are gone from Age of Sigmar. I don't know if they're making the models anymore, so get them while you still can.
And I think the announcements we've had about orcs so far, there's been nothing about any Savage Orc re-releases at all. So
There was that one Shaman,
yeah,
but that's it.
that's it.
And he's been reflavored as he thinks he's a troll.
Oh yeah, he has troll magic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to go through that book. I haven't had a chance to go through it yet. But
Yep.
you can take quote unquote Savage Orcs still by giving them war paint and frenzy, no armor.
Yep.
But I'm not sure what models they're expecting people to use in the future if they don't eventually release those models.
Print them.
Because you could print them, but you can't change the orc kits to not give them armor and give them war paint. And you can't get a big stabber any other way than in the Savage Orc box.
Yeah, I mean, Games Workshop has historically been awful at providing all of the options that are given in the books for all the models. You could never take a lot of elf units, for example, without their armor that they were equipped with. Like, in earlier editions particularly, there was options for having silver helms without heavy armor, for example, or having spearmen with no armor. But every single model always had its armor on, and you couldn't take it off or anything.
Yeah, I mean that's options, and then there's just some models that were never made.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not too worried about that. Like, we're so early in the kind of the production run for this game, so we'll see what happens in terms of the models. I suspect that they are more focused on getting, like, they've got all of this back ordered stuff from these made to order for Bretonia, Tomb Kings, and now Orcs, where they're saying, it could be up to 6 months before you get your miniatures.
It's crazy.
And so they're aiming those sorts of miniatures clearly at collectors more than at
People who want to play the game now.
People who want to play the game, exactly. So I think, in fact, the way that they've gone about bringing this product to market has actually encouraged people to turn to third parties and to 3D printing, because that's the only way they can start playing today.
And 3D printing is great. Go for it.
Yes, we're converts.
There are so many amazing STLs for all the different factions that there are in the old world, like both on the general Games Workshop style theme and off of it, that work so amazingly. And I'm so excited to use this printer more once we get our screen replaced.
Yeah, maybe we should do a hobby...
hobby horse on printing sometime.
Printing. Yeah, I replaced the screen. It's all working again.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. All right. We've gone off topic a bit, so that probably means we're
A lot.
done. Yeah.
I think it's time to move into the tournament zone, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that thing, yeah.
The tournament zone.
Alrighty, moving into the tournament zone. We've got an event on tomorrow. Very exciting. Up in, oh god, where is it again?
Wicklow?
Wicklow, yeah.
Yeah.
Too many places that start with W down here. I am very excited to go to this event. I'm not terribly well informed on what's happening there, though. Ben, if you wanted to explain?
Sure. So even though this is the tournament zone, it's kind of not a tournament. It's more like organized play with 2 or 3 games where you'll get matched with someone different each time. And there's a very heavy focus on the narrative, which is very different. I've never actually even heard of a type of a tournament/organized play event like this, but the organizer, who's a lovely person named Matt, has delivered all these great scenarios where you're looking for treasure and you get rewards, and there's a really strong narrative element to it. So it's 1,500 points. We'll play 2 or possibly 3 games if we have time in a large community center. I think there's 16 people attending.
Yeah, so that's the Last Chancers group. They're like a overall gaming group, and they're based in that community center, and they play every week. Really nice bunch of guys in Wicklow Town. I think we've got a bigger room. I think it might be as many as 18 to
18? Yeah, that's pretty good, yeah.
And they seem to be coming from all over the place, including as far away as Cork. I know there's some folks coming from. So
I think Cork's not that far.
I mean, it's a bit of a drive to get to Wicklow because there's no motorway.
Oh yeah, you probably go through Wexford and then up on the Dublin Road,
or go from Cork to Dublin on the motorway and then down from Dublin on the motorway. Yeah. So it's far enough. Anyway. Not far in American terms, but
that's
less than a state away.
A trip to the grocery store. Sorry, that's a very offensive accent. I'm very sorry to the 2 of you.
It's okay. Nobody hears American.
You can't make an offensive American accent.
Yeah. Oh, but there's so many. Yeah, so it's going to be really exciting. The list making process for this was interesting because, of course, I think a lot of people went into it with the mindset of, right, I'm going to take what's strongest. But the tournament organizer has said specifically, hey, if you're here to bring a meta list, don't. Play what's fun, play the models that you like. And he's even turned away some lists. I know someone had a Chaos Lord on a dragon and a level 4 wizard in the same list, which at 1,500 points is pretty, potentially oppressive.
Is that just like his whole list is his core allowance and those 2 models?
Well, I think it might.
Much.
I think it might be, but that's definitely going to do
plus
some
a hell
damage.
cannon.
At that point allowance. So going into the list making process for this, I don't know if it's the same for the 3 of you, but I was sort of like, I could try and take a meta list. I could bring the dwarves. I could do some cheesy Banner of Hesitation, hammerers, Rune of Skewering, bolt throwers, and 700 gyrocopters. But I decided that, you know, I'd bring my Empire list. I'd bring Outriders in a big block because they're very cool models, and I'd bring a steam tank, and I'd not build to win, but build just to play the fun models that I've been playing. And I mean, how did you decide on the list that you'd be bringing?
Yeah, so for me, I had a few things that I wanted to try out, knowing that it wasn't going to be super competitive. Felt like a safe space to just, you know, do things where it's like, well, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So yeah, I brought some models that are where I'm like, okay, is this a tactic that I can make work? So I think that maybe the biggest thing for me is like I really like the Great Stag that they have in the Wood Elf lore. I used to really enjoy. You could have multiple characters on stags because they were on 50 by 50 bases, and the cavalry were on 25 by 50, so you could put them in the unit. Now you can't put them in the unit quite so nicely. They have to kind of latch on to the side because all the cavalry are 30 by 60. But I thought, well, maybe I'll give it a whirl, put my BSB on a Great Stag and see how that works. So stuff like that. That was kind of my thinking as I went in. Mark?
Mainly try to figure out how to use the models that I have, because I'm not like, I think out of everyone here I probably have the least experience with any rank and flank games. I think I played one game of Sixth properly before playing the Old World like for 5 games. So I'm still trying to get used to it. Mostly what I have painted is what I have set up for the list. I did try to get some stuff that I thought was useful, but I'm not still 100% sure it's like, you know, something that I can use. Like I have some Dark Raiders there with the crossbows because I know they have worked for me in the past. I am going to bring some repeater crossbow guys for core, just to see what they're like. I've never tried them before. They might be good, they might be awful. I'm really not sure. I'm not bringing a dragon at the moment. I started painting one, but then they were like, don't be, you know, too, you know, power gaming or anything. So I was like, yeah, okay, we'll finish painting that thing later on. But I did get most of my Manticore done up, and I really, really like that model. Just big chunk of metal, you know.
Really good. Yeah,
you could throw it at someone and it hurt them, you know.
The paint job you've done on it is fantastic, and I mean, none of us are going to be playing against each other. There was, you know, he's done the matchmaking by, you know, sort of groups of people that are coming together, so the 4 of us won't be matched against one another.
Huzzah!
Yeah, so, you know, I would love to play against that Manticore and get revenge because you completely destroyed my dwarves with it. But
We'll do it next week.
Yeah, we'll do it next week when we get home.
My list is a slightly different version of the list that I've been running pretty much every game I've played in Old World. It's just what I have painted and based. I've got a big block of chosen warriors on foot, with 2 hand weapons, with it's some banner that Warriors of Chaos have, which gives them frenzy that can't be lost. So they've got 4 attacks, and then I've just got a whole bunch of other things that go around that to funnel things into the big block of chosen, so they have to fight it. And a level 4 wizard in the big block. I've given them all the Mark of Nurgle, and just decided to push, like, everything in the list has frenzy except for 2 units. So I'm just going to push everything up the board and charge whatever I can, and just hope that the dice are with me, basically. It's not a very, you know, thought-heavy list. It should be good fun.
I think it's the Banner of Rage is the name of the banner.
Yeah, that's the one. There's also the Rampaging banner, which is very similarly named, and I was considering taking on my knights, which lets you reroll your charge rolls.
Yes.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we go through the lists themselves?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, Ben, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start. Okay, so I have 1,500 points on the dot of Empire of Man, and my list is 1 general of the Empire with a lance on a barded warhorse and a shield, and that's it. That's my general. I have a Captain of the Empire, who's my BSB, no specific standard, on a Barded Warhorse with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. I have a Captain of the Empire on a Empire Warhorse with the Dragon Bow, which is I think is a sleeper, really strong magical item within the Empire army. It's 25 points, it's strength 6, range 36 inches. I think it's AP 2. I'd have to double check, but it's very cheap for a strong range weapon. It feels like something out of the Wood Elf book for sort of
25 points, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to double check now that it is 25 points because I might be talking out my ass.
There's a similar Beastman magic item, which is it's 25 points.
It is 25 points.
Yeah, 25 points. So magical attacks, multiple wounds 2, AP 2, strength 6, range 36 inches, and it's 25 points. So you can turn your Captain of the Empire, who is I think 45 points model, into a pretty decent little mini cannon guy with this, because they're BS5, which means
they're hitting on twos.
Yeah, hitting on twos, and at 36 inches of range,
You'll be hitting on threes at that range. But
they'll be hitting on threes at that range, but 18 inches you're hitting on twos, and 18 inches is pretty big. So I think it's good. They're so cheap you can put them anywhere. But I'm going to be putting him with my block of Outriders.
It is, in fact, an elven bow, just so you know.
Oh, in the lore? It's
In
an
the
elven
lore,
bow?
yeah.
Oh.
it says it's a gift from the elves, yeah.
A relic from the ancient elven colonies of the old
Boo.
world.
I'm not taking it anymore. I'm going to use those points on pigeon bombs. And then I have a Wizard Lord, level 4 on an Empire Warhorse with Demonology, my favourite school of magic.
The
And
best
then-
school of magic.
Yes. And then I have a Vanilla Engineer, 45 points. So I have 5 different characters in this 1,500 point list, which is one of the good things
Very
about
empire-y of you, yeah.
When your characters are never more expensive than 100 points, you might as well take 5.
Yeah, I do have. There were 118, 128, 103, 172 for the wizard, which is cheap for a level 4 wizard on a horse.
It's the cheapest level 4 was in the game, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and 45 points for the engineer. In my core though, I've got 2 blocks of 7 Empire Knights. One of them has lances and shields, and the other one has great weapons. And those are modeled as, if you know anything about them, Knights of the White Wolf, which I've just finished painting, who are the sort of Knights of Ulrich, and they're very cool. So that's the reason why I took 2 blocks of 7 Knights. Also, I like things on horses. And then I have 10 State Missile Troops, just with handguns. And that's my core. Special units, 7 Outriders, all in one big block, a great cannon, and then last but not least, I have the Steam Tank. Which is my which I've also just finished painting, which is sort of my ace in the hole for this game. I told AJ I'm thinking of it like a sort of a safe that I'm putting points in that hopefully nobody's gonna kill because it's what is
so
it?
hard to kill.
It is one of
10
2
wounds,
toughness 7 units in the game.
Yeah.
toughness 7, 10 wounds, free up armor save.
You'd think a tank would have a 2-up of anything. Like,
No, it's they're quite rickety. If it was fresh
sure.
off the press, it'd be 2 up. But isn't the lore around the steam tank something like, they keep fixing them and rebuilding them because the guy who made them died hundreds of years ago? and so
they retconned that.
That was the case in 8th edition, but in the old world, that guy's still alive.
What, really?
And so there's more steam tanks available than there were in the 8th edition.
Oh, that's great. Okay, yeah, we should have a 2-up armor save. But yeah, steam tanks are pretty cool. It's not. It's not a dragon. It can't fly. It doesn't really have that many attacks in close combat. But it does have a cannon
And a steam
Yeah.
gun, which is amazing.
and it's strength 2. It's a breath weapon, but strength.
You'll
2.
kill all those goblins.
Yeah, but you don't get any armor saves.
Yeah, that's the big deal.
Or regen saves, I think, with the steam gun. So
Well, it's
yeah.
flaming.
That's my list. I mean, the whole goal is just charge the knights up the middle, have this big block of outriders on the flank shooting things. I'm not sure where I'm going to put the wizard yet. I might have him on his own running around causing trouble.
Don't have him on his own.
You don't think
He'll
you
get
think
shot.
He'll get
He'll
shot.
get shot.
But if I position him really carefully, maybe.
Then he won't be able
Sure.
to hit anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
exactly.
Okay, then I'll stick him in a block of knights with my...
Especially with Demonology, because it's got so many buffs that apply to the wizard and his unit.
Oh, yep. So the rules with Swift Stride, because I've got the I forgot to mention I've got the Silver Horn, I think it's called on one of my captains, so that you get to re-roll the die for Swift Stride. And I was thinking of putting him in the block of Outriders so that I can just fire and flee, reform, fire and flee, reform, fire and flee, reform, and nobody would be able to catch me.
Do they have feigned flight?
No, they don't. They've got fire and flee, but they don't have the. Is that the Wood Elf special rule? That
No,
makes
Feint
sense?
Flight is just you automatically rally.
Oh no, they don't have that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there'll be a captain in there. So,
So in your first game, you're going to run off the board immediately. The first time you try to find a play.
I don't know if they'll run that far. It's sort of like because this is a friendly tournament. I want to see if I can cheese fire and flee, sort of like cosplay a Wood Elf for one game and
What elf with repeater handguns? Yeah.
yeah. Repeat handguns, by the way. 24 inches, strength 4, AP 1, 3 shots, 3 of them, multiple shots 3. So
Hitting
they're-
on fives.
But they're BS3, right?
Yeah.
they're BS4.
They're
And the
BS4.
captain, I have a captain in the unit is BS5. So it's not that bad.
So they're BS4, but then they're shooting multiple shots, so it goes down to essentially 3. And then they're almost always going to be moving, which puts them up to 1.
Are they going to be moving though? That's the thing.
Sometimes,
I mean, they're
yeah.
on horses, so I kind of feel it kind of makes you want to move them. But I think they're pretty good as just static units that can fire and flee and charge in once they've whittled down a unit to the necessary wins
Yeah.
they
So,
need.
so what's interesting about that is, and this is why Feint Flight is important. You will flee, and you'll be fleeing when it comes back to your turn. So then, in your command phase, you rally them. Sorry, the strategy phase, whatever it's actually called. What's that first phase?
I think
called?
it's the strategy phase.
Strategy phase, yeah.
command phase.
You rally them, and once they rally, they count as having moved. Now they can still move again, like they haven't
Yeah,
actually moved,
but
but
you'll get the -2.
you'll get the minus for having.
ponderous or cumbersome, whatever it is.
Yep. So, or just for moving and shooting.
Yeah, so I was thinking of keeping them pretty static, but we'll see how it goes. It's not really the way most people bring out riders is they'll put 4 of them on either side of the battlefield, and they'll shoot and they'll run and they'll shoot and they're Moby, fire and flee. I'm taking mine in a big old block, just because it's I like the idea of having
You should deploy them in a
many
line.
outriders.
You should deploy them in a line.
Well, they're skirmishers, so
Oh, right, the skirmishers. I forgot
yeah,
about
that's
that.
another good thing about them is they're skirmishers, so you can set them up in the old zigzag where they have line of sight and everything.
Yep.
And then
And a
and then
360-degree firing arc.
exactly,
And fleeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
so the
good.
demonic vessel spell is the one I think you were talking about, Finton, where the cast of the mountain in a unit they've joined gain +1 strength and +1 attacks and +1 AP.
Which is ridiculous.
Really good. So you want to put that in with your knights. Either I would put it in your lances probably, but you
Make the most out of them, you know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll probably put him with the lances in the Knights of Ulrich unit. I was going to put my BSB with the Ruby Ring of Ruin.
Nice.
But we'll see how it goes. This is stuff that I haven't really tried out. I've played with Knights before against Mark, but that game was pretty quick. I didn't really get a chance to see what they were doing. But now I'm running a primarily horse Empire list, and I'm going to be playing probably against Tomb Kings and Warriors of Chaos, so we're going to get a chance to test it. And the plan for the steam tank is charge it into the most scary unit the enemy has and tie it up for the entire game, and then maybe be able to win. So yeah, shoot some cannon shots, fire off the great cannon, and then charge the steam tank into whatever's closest. Although I think against infantry, if you charge it into a block of infantry, it's got D6 +1 stomp attacks, and they have AP2 if it's against infantry, which is pretty good. So you can probably chew for a nice block of.
Well, it's
warriors.
the impact hits that really count on the charge.
Oh, is it D6 +1 impact?
It's
hits?
D6 +1
Yeah, you're
impact
right,
hits, and then I think it's D3 +1 stomp attacks.
yeah.
So your stomp attacks, you're going to average 3, and that's all your attacks apart from your engineer on top.
Just weapon skill 3.
Weapon skill
Very
3,
good.
strength 3. Yeah, exactly.
You might get one guy in the whole game.
So really, in terms of you want to avoid being charged, but in terms of trying to deal with the steam tank, because it's hard to deal with, you definitely want something that can, doesn't mind getting a few stomps on it, and otherwise maybe get some damage in on the tank. Yeah, I don't really know how to deal with it, honestly, so I'm glad I'm not fighting you tomorrow.
I think there's a few units that could probably take it apart, like the Bretonnian Lord. They're basically Superman. They're really strong. They have loads of attacks.
Yeah,
I
I can take anything
A
apart.
dragon could. I don't know what else. But the funny thing is, we're
That's why
saying
you're
this
good with
now.
the cannon.
Yeah, the second we get back from the tournament, I'm going to like, oh, it died to night goblins, it died to some chaos warhounds, and I charged it into an enemy's engineer and it died. So no, it's fine. I'm really excited to use it. It's a very fun thematic, and it's everything I love about the Empire. So
And it's unbreakable.
yes, it is unbreakable.
So no running away and losing your tank because you lost combat.
And it has terror.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a machine, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The other nice thing about it is that it's got a big fucking cannon in the front of it.
Yeah, it's only strength 8 though, so I'm
Only
not
strength 8.
compared to the
Only.
Great Cannon, which is strength 10, and it's only.
Oh yeah,
D3
because you're going to be
wounds
shooting at
instead
so
of-
much toughness 8 thing, like so many toughness 8 things. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to be wounding everything on 2s, no matter what, unless you're fighting dwarves with the toughness 10 rune.
Or another steam tank.
That's it. Yeah,
I know.
The only thing that can take out a steam tank is another steam tank.
and thus we have World War One arms development.
Yeah, we're bolt action now, or whatever it's called. What's the word? The sort of World War
Flames of War.
Bolt action is the World War II one. Yeah.
Bolt action. Yeah. Do they have tanks in there, or is it just?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
blokes?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
They're really nice looking tanks too. They are significantly smaller than they would be in real life. Like, you've got a normal man standing taller than most tanks there, even though a tank would be about 2 men tall in most
Yeah.
cases.
No, my immersion is ruined.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, does your steam tank have pigeon bombs?
No, I wanted so desperately to take them. I couldn't find the points.
But you took that darn that horn instead.
Oh, the-
Dragon bow?
Yeah, it's either the dragon bow is too cool to take because it's a bow that's very
But it's
cool.
from the elves. You could have
You
dropped
know,
it for the
look.
pigeons.
Maybe I'll talk to the TO. Say, look, I really need to take pigeon bombs. Can I remove my engineer? Can I take some points away?
Maybe if you get one of the objectives, you can. It's a pigeon's nest.
I mean, I don't think they're that bad. I think that they're probably not good, and they're probably a waste of points because they're quite expensive, and you can end up
Totally.
just doing loads of wounds to yourself. But
You're just as likely to hit yourself as you are to hit the enemy.
I thought that was 1 to 2. You hit yourself. 2 to 3, it flies off. 4 to 5,
It hits lightly, and then 6 it hits the
Yeah,
enemy for
6.
actual amount of damage.
Yeah, strength, and it's only strength 4, so it's not great.
Yeah, like use it on a unit of goblins
Yeah,
because it's funny.
it's I mean, look, when
It's
I build
pretty terrible.
when I build my 3 gate cannons, 3 Hellblaster volley guns, 3 engineers with pigeon bombs, and then a steam tank with pigeon bombs, and make that my entire list. And we'll see how that goes.
I've just had a horrible idea, unrelated to the old world, about Blood Bowl with pigeons going around and picking up the ball.
Well, maybe that's their true destiny. This is just a trial for them. Can we be used in war? No.
Can we
Someone
get-
needs to invent
Organized sports, perhaps?
organized sports? Yeah.
We need to get the Imperial Engineering team for Blood Bowl.
Okay, on that silliness, who wants to go next with a list?
Let's continue the cadence we were doing before.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
All right.
You're up next, AJ.
Okay, no worries. So let me just now I'm put on the spot, so I got to bring it up. Okay, characters. I only have 2. So one is a Tree Man Ancient that I buffed up to be a level 4 wizard, and I'm taking Elementalism this time around instead of Battle Magic, which I have been running. This is another experiment. And the only forest spite that I'm taking on the Treeman Ancient is a Lamentation of Despairs. So the forest spirits in the Wood Elf army can't take regular magic items. They can only take these little fairy buffs that they get.
Are those modelled? Do you get to put them on the unit? Do they come in the kits?
And they do actually have sort of like bits and bobs that count as that sort of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, not specifically, I don't think, for this particular one, because like when you read the descriptions of them, some of them are like this one. They don't even tell you what it looks like in the lore description. But what it does is anything that's within any enemy units within 6 inches suffer -1 to their leadership when making fear, panic, or terror test. And so with the Tree Man Ancient, the Tree Lady model, as I've got her, she already causes terror. I thought, well, now it's terror at -1. Okay, my other...
Doesn't Terror also inflict fear at -1?
Yep.
Yeah,
It'll be
so
fear at -1. It'll be
fear
fear at
minus
-2.
two.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So then the next character is the Glade Captain. That's my BSB. He's got a great weapon, light armor, and shield. He is riding on a great stag, and he's got the Helm of the Hunt. So the Helm of the Hunt is a Wood Elf only magic item, 50 points. Gives you that +1 armor save. And on a turn that you charge, you get +1 weapon skill, +1 attack, and I think +1 armor piercing. I'm not sure. But it basically turns the captain into like a lord level on the turn that he charges in terms of stats, which is pretty neat. And that +1 to the armor save. The Great Stag has armored hide too. It's the only thing in the Wood Elf army that does. So this is the only way that the Wood Elves can get a 2-up armor save. And I thought, okay, let's give that a try. So here he is. He's the BSB riding on his big stag with the 2-up armor save. All right, core allowance. As much as I have railed against how Glade Guard are no longer the bee's knees, I'm still taking 12 of them. And I'm giving them Arcane Bodkins, which is 2 AP. So they'll be AP -2, and they'll still have Armor Bane 1. Going to use those to try and deal with heavily armored stuff, obviously. And I've also given them both Vanguard and Fire and Flee. So the tactic with this is a line of archers, 12 wide and 1 deep, obviously. And they're just going to be at the front of the army and move out and be in front. And they're going to shoot and retreat and shoot and retreat. And behind them will be the next unit, which is 6 Dryads. And when they need to, they're going to flee through the Dryads away from whatever's charging them, so that they'll definitely, the Fire and Flee only gets you like D6 inches away. So you have to have your Dryads close enough that they actually pop through the other side of the unit. And then the Dryads will take the charge from whatever because they're stubborn. So that's kind of the idea behind them. And then the other unit I've got in core is a unit of 9 Deepwood Scouts. So they're basically Glade Guard that can scout. And they've got the Hagbane tips, which is the poison arrows. So they are for shooting your cannon, Ben, and other unfriendly and antisocial weapons such as that. So yeah, literally just going to deploy them deep and shoot war machines. That's their job. And then in special, special is, I think in Wood Elves, special is where all of the really best units are probably. Taking 6 Wild Riders. I give them full command and shields. And 5 War Dancers with additional hand weapons and the champion.
War Dancers are only special?
Yep.
Neat.
Yeah, they are. Well, you see, yeah, it is pretty neat. They're expensive, right? They're for something that has no armor save. Although they do have a 6-up ward, which is nice.
How many points are they per model, sorry?
They are, I think, 16 points a model, plus an extra 1 for the additional hand weapon, because why wouldn't you? So really,
Because you want to save that 1 extra point.
that comes out to 17 points a model
Okay, yeah, that's pretty pricey.
for something that's toughness 3.
No armor save.
No armor save.
Incredibly vulnerable to shooting.
Well, they do skirmish, so you're at -1 to hit them, and they're not going to be a frontline troop. They are, something they're going to hide.
Stick them on the flank.
Yeah, well, yeah, let me just finish the list, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm planning.
Alrighty.
So the only other 2, then we're into rare. I've got a Great Eagle and another Tree Man. So this is the first time I'm taking a Tree Man that is just the monster Tree Man, not the character Tree Man. I haven't given him any spites, even though he can take them. And the reason that I'm taking him is he's got 5 attacks in close combat, as opposed to the Tree Man Ancient only has 3. This is a slightly different profile, a slightly different use, but the idea is that he's going to be the one really doing the fighting, and the Tree Man Ancient is primarily there to support the rest of the army, right? So being large target, 18-inch command range, can see over everything, so can cast spells over everything, and I'm taking elementalism to be able to kind of help, support the army rather than taking battle magic and being in, being the main fighting character. So obviously I'm looking at like Plague of Rust to try and help deal with armor and stuff like that. So the whole army has a tiny, tiny footprint. Once you put that line of Glade Guard out and you discount the scouts because they're off somewhere else, everything else fits in a really small area. Like, I put it on the battle reporter, and they can all fit in a 1 foot square. So I really, I want to kind of try and play the game on my terms, force you to come at me, force you to take the fire from the archers as you're coming at me, and then do some fleeing shenanigans and get some multi-charges off with terror-causing things, So the 2 tree men cause terror, the wild riders cause fear, the dryads cause fear, and the glade captain on the great stag, I think, also causes fear. So there's a lot of psychological shenanigans I'm hoping will come to pass.
There are some. I haven't really thought about it that much until recently. I think there was a conversation happening about having a fear-based or psychological-based army that just whacks into the opponent's leadership and scares them all away. Because if you run certain combinations of items, it can be really strong, and it feels like it's really important in this edition. And so it's going to be fun to see how that plays out.
That's something Chaos is particularly good at in this edition, with access to demonology spells as well as a bunch of the different gifts of Chaos and some of the unique magic items. I believe you can get like -4 or 5 on certain leadership tests, which is ridiculous.
That is really good, yeah.
Any leadership 8 thing is going to go to leadership 3 and is going to flee almost instantly if it gets charged by anything with terror, which is really strong.
Yeah, you can sort of do it in Wood Elves also. They have 2 items that give a -1 bubble, and then they have a spite that makes something cause terror, and they have a banner which makes something cause fear, but if it causes fear, it then causes terror. So you can end up with, a lot of terror-causing things. And one of the interesting things is, unlike Panic, you make as many terror tests as you are called to make in a given phase. So if you get charged by 3 things that cause terror, you're making 3 terror tests. So, doing the math on that, when you've got the -1 or the -2, eventually you're going to make stuff run away. Now, I don't know that it's necessarily a good tactic.
Certainly a fun one.
And I thought, what, I'll lean into it a little bit and try it out and see, if it has any impact. So that's what I'm doing with the list. And I really, the Great Stag, I just want to geek out about the Great Stag for a minute. So it gives a +1 toughness, +1 wound. So now my elf is toughness 4. Yay. And being a hero, it goes up to having 3 wounds instead of 2. So that's neat. In addition to the armored hide, and the fear, which I've already mentioned, it's got first charge. It's got an impact hit. Obviously it can move through cover like everything else in the Wood Elf list. And it's got a stomp attack and it's swift stride. And then the other thing is just its combat weapon. So, at strength 5, it's going to be doing, 1 strength 5 impact hit, 1 strength 5 stomp attack, 2 strength 5 attacks. And then the guy on top of it is going to have 4 strength 6 attacks because he's got a great weapon. So I'm hoping, as a counter charge or something that can hit, it doesn't even need to hit you in the flank with the first charge. That it can, it's not a dragon. It's not going to kill units by itself.
It is less than half the cost of a dragon, though.
Right. It's very cheap. It's only 200 points.
Right.
Total. And so, and that includes being the BSB. He's gonna, I think, land some much needed oomph when like, for example, a charge with the War Dancers and him, that'll be a fun combo. So that's the sort of thing I'm looking at.
That list is really exciting. Yeah,
Very
I'm
fun
excited
looking.
to see how it does. I think you'll have a great time on the table.
Yeah, that's the most important. I want to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, Mark, you want to take us through your list?
Yeah, sure. Literally, just as AJ was talking about a special section, I think I actually need to redo a part of mine because I think I can actually take Blackguard without taking a master, and I haven't.
Really?
Yeah, and we have actually played before, and I hadn't taken a master because I never have. And yeah,
Well, explain why they're so effective then. They've got a points tax on them.
yeah. So I might just count the Beastmaster as a master. Yeah.
It's
Instead
not a beast
Instead
master.
of a high Beastmaster, he's just a high master. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to start off my list, I have Supreme Sorceress on a cold one. She's level 4. Basically just has battle magic and a Pendant of Kaleth, which gives her I think it's a 5+ against Strength 4 or lower word save, or a 4+ against 5 or higher strength attacks.
So an improved version of the Blessing of the Lady from Britannia.
Yeah, it's nice. High Beastmaster, which is going to have to change. He basically just has like a cavalry spear, which I think he comes with. Can't remember. Heavy armor, but he gets that from the Manticore anyway. So actually, there's some points saved already. Sea Dragon Cloak and the Shield of Gron, because people have been complaining about Manticores just being toughness 4. Shield of Gron reduces all attacks by 1 strength, so seems to be fairly straightforward. For core, basically some stuff that I had painted. 10 Dark Elf Warriors with some thrusting spears and shields. 10 Dark Riders. Just 2 separate units of 5. And then some 10 Repeater Crossbowmen as well, just to test them out and see if they're any good. For special, Harganeth Executioners. They have everything apart from the musicians. And the Standard Bearer has the Cold-Blooded Banner, which I think is the one that either lets them reroll stupidity if that exists, or it gives them an extra -1 to their AP. I forget, but yeah, one that makes sense for them to have. Cold One Knights, because they look cool and they are cool.
Yeah.
Full plate armor and a Dread Knight. That's
Cold, actually.
I've been looking forward to seeing those Cold One Knights on the field. Since you've got them assembled, I really want to see them slam into something and actually kill stuff.
I'm looking forward to seeing them do stuff as well. I spent a good bit of time airbrushing them. They're not 100% done, but I spent most of my time because I'm very nitpicky when it comes to the minor details of models, and I wanted them to all be old models. The fact that they didn't have any harness or anything like that didn't bother me, so I spent ages making a harness for them and all that.
Right, and you're the same guy who makes bowstrings for all his bows, right?
Yeah, the Repeater or the Reaper Bolt Thrower. Yeah.
So the Cold-Blooded Banner, I was just looking it up while you were talking there. It's a single use. A unit carrying it may use it when making any test against its leadership characteristic, including a break test. And when it does, it may roll an extra d6 and discard the highest result.
Sounds about right.
And which unit did you put that on?
Harganeth Executioners. I remember somewhere.
Right, so that way they don't run away as much, because they're not amazing leadership.
Yeah.
Well, they're leadership 9 and they're veterans, so I actually am not sure that you need to put that on those guys. But
I mean, I could take that off him and then put those points towards the master if
Yeah,
he even needs them.
Because, yeah, you're right, like the High Beastmaster. So it's tricky because the High Beastmaster can ride a Manticore even though he is a hero level character. But only the Dreadlord can ride the Manticore if you're just getting a regular Dark Elf Noble.
Okay, and he's probably 150 points.
He's 130.
130. Okay.
Yeah, so we may need to help you kind of tweak this list a little bit after the podcast is done.
We'll go through and restructure it a little bit. Yeah.
Yes, might have to go back to New Ross on the way and pick up some more models. So it might be good that the tournament is starting it.
You know what?
We'll see.
We'll make it work with your toys that you've got. You know, I'm sure we can do it.
So yeah, aside from those, I have 10 Blackguard, full plate armor. I think it's basically what they come with, and then just the Reaper Ball Thrower that I've been using for I think almost every game so far. And it's actually painted, although not 100% yet. Airbrushed.
Has the Reaper actually killed anything notable?
I think it has killed infantry, basically core infantry.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 1 or 2 per a good game.
It's only like 90 points, though, so
Yeah.
it's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
I think that the repeater function is a neat gimmick, but I don't know that it's too useful in most cases. It just seems to be very, like, you're going to be better off in most situations shooting the really big bolt, and you're paying for something you're not really going to end up using a lot of the time with the Reaper. But it's a cool model.
Yeah, I like it's one of those models I had when I was a kid. That's like, honestly, there is a bit of nostalgia there and a bit of what do you want to call it? I mean, there's a bit of attachment to it,
Absolutely.
So
It's only 80 points.
Oh, only 80. Okay.
So tactical hint: they're better when you've got two of them.
Yeah.
So you can always get that nice flank shot.
Well, more that then the math becomes a bit more reliable when it comes to shooting at stuff, and so when you've just got one, you're very much at the mercy of the dice. When you've got two, the odds kind of even out a little bit over the course of the game, and so you get a little bit less swingy results.
I have had some very bad luck with them before.
Yep.
Usually either it'll do something, but very minor. It hasn't really made its points back ever, I think. But yeah, hasn't been quite effective.
It did like 2 wounds to a giant one time.
Was that with the single?
That was
arrow?
the single one, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Strength 6 was tough 6, so you can actually do something against that.
That's basically my armor list anyway.
Yeah, I think they're very effective against monstrous infantry and monstrous cavalry. We're not seeing a lot of that on the battlefield at the moment.
Unless you're playing against Empire. That isn't Ben's.
Well, even then, sure. But predominantly people are taking monsters
And infantry. Not
right?
in between.
Yeah, exactly.
The cases you'll see otherwise is Ogres and Empire, I think.
Yeah, ogres for sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the meta, and at the end of the day,
Maybe someone's bringing a troll list.
the nice thing is if you've got two of them, then you're spraying a bunch of shots for hitting infantry at strength 4, which is nice, right? That you'll get more utility out of having both of them there than having just the one. So
I do have one, and a spare one at home, so I can actually build another one.
Yep.
So
No worries.
All right, so my list. I've run a very similar list to this, but at 1,000 points for most things we've been playing in the shop. It's built around a massive block of chosen warriors, as I said before. I'm going to start with the characters, though. I've got a Sorcerer Lord with the Mark of Nurgle on foot with the Enchanting Aura, Gift of Chaos, which is it gives everything in contact, every unit in contact with the Sorcerer strikes last, or if they have strikes first, it removes that, which is really powerful for 35 points.
So it's the same ability like a Frostheart Phoenix has, or Thunder Tusk, whichever. What the big icy guy from the Ogre Kingdoms. Anyway, yeah.
Not familiar with ogres that much, so
Gives you no. I think it was the Thunder Tusk, but yeah, the Frostheart Phoenix for sure. Aura of cold. It's like now you're just too cold to strike first or strike at whatever your initiative is. You're going last.
This sorcerer's got the Mark of Nurgle along with the chosen unit, so that way he can go in them, and also because I don't want him to die that much, so it makes you reroll 6s to hit against him. So he's much more resistant to get poison, which is a nice benefit, but also just gets hit less. I've given him Demonology and a Lore Familiar, so I get to pick all my spells. I'm going to be picking Fleshy Abundance in almost every game, alongside the 2 buff spells in Demonology, which give +1.
Demonic Vigor and Demonic
Yeah, Demonic
Vessel.
Vigor and Demonic Vessel are the 2.
Yeah.
Demonic Vessel is the really big one, but Demonic Vigor is quite nice as well because it gives an additional +1 toughness on top of Fleshy Abundance, so I can have a toughness 6 unit,
That's gross.
It is. But it's also, movement 4. It's not going to be running down things. If you don't want to fight it, you don't have to. I'm going to tell everyone that. You don't have to fight this unit before the game starts. In fact, you should not. You will lose, as I'll get to in a moment. I've also got an Exalted Champion on foot. He's just a Battle Standard Bearer. He's got nothing crazy on him. I've got 10 Chaos Knights for my core. They've got the Mark of Khorne, Lances, and full command. They're just going to run up the middle of the board and charge into something, hopefully kill it. And then we've got 2 units of 5 Chaos Warhounds with Vanguard. They're super duper cheap little chaff units, which I'm going to use to try and corral some of my units that all have Frenzy. And also just to try and, do chaff things. Muck up charges, that kind of thing. I've got for special, I've got just the 1 unit of 18 Chosen. They've got additional hand weapons, full plate armor, the Mark of Nurgle, full command, with the Banner of Rage. So they're really tough and really hard hitting because Chosen have 2 attack space, +1 for the additional hand weapon, +1 for frenzy, and then I'm going to use Demonic Vessel on them to give them 5. So I'm going to have 5 attacks and 6 toughness on each of these individual models. Like I said, you're not going to want to fight this unit. You will lose. I've used a similar thing in every game I've played in the shop. The only times it's lost or come close to losing has been when people shoot it off the board. Like you got a couple of kills on it with your various shooting that you had across different units, Mark, in the game we played.
Was that the objectives one? Was like firing everything out of like spells and
yeah. Oh, I remember what happened in that game. I rolled 2-dimensional cascades in as many turns. Killed 4 models.
Oh.
This is the first time I'm running Mark of Nurgle on the unit. I wanted to give that a try. Normally I run Mark of Tzeentch so I can get a +5 to cast, so I can get off that Demonic Vessel quite regularly. It's going to be an interesting time with Nurgle because without that extra +1, it's going to be a lot harder to get off because it's a level 10 spell. And I'm just hoping that it has... I'm hoping it's not too big a difference. And then I also am bringing Chaos Giant, who I absolutely love, and I've brought in every game as well. He is amazing. I've put both upgrades on him. He's got heavy armor and regeneration. I'm just hoping to run that into some character and delete him out of the enemy unit. Yes. You take 2d6 wounds. You take d6 plus 2 wounds. Enjoy.
That's the one of the few models you would generally have a good time being killed by because it's so
yeah. He could randomly decide to belly flop on the unit and kill nothing. Or he could jump up and down and kill nothing again. Or he could kill every single command model in the unit.
Or get killed and then fall on the thing that killed him and then kill it too.
Yes.
Poor Manticore.
Oh, yes. We had a game where Mark charges Manticore into my giant. Managed to kill it, but it was brought down to 1 wound in the process. And then the giant fell onto him and killed him as well. So we ended up trading about equal numbers of points while they did nothing else for the entire game. That was the same game where I rolled 2-dimensional cascades. That was an amazing game.
It was.
But yeah, it's a very small army in terms of number of units. Essentially, just as long as my opponent cannot avoid my big block of Chosen, I should be able to just munch through them on anything. But like I said, everything but the Giant and the Warhounds are frenzied, so it's going to be quite easy to, for Wood Elf players, for example, to yoink this army around.
Or anything with a lot of chaff, right?
Yeah.
Just to kind of pull your frenzied unit away off of the objectives. And
yeah, like Beastmen or Wood Elves are quite good at that. Or there's so many things that could do it.
Yep.
But if you just try and meet them in a face-to-face duel, the 30 attacks coming at you from this unit will munch you up.
Yep.
It's going to be a fun time.
All right, men. Rank up. We'll charge him in the flanks.
Alrighty, I think that about brings things to a close. If anyone has any closing thoughts.
So one thing I wanted to bring up, I was looking at the stats for the podcast the other day, and our Tomb Kings episode number 5, where we went over, what was it called? Tomb Kings Can't March to War.
I think it was Don't March to War.
That episode has twice as many listens as all of our other episodes. So that leads me to believe that people really like to hear about sort of the army unit deep dive sort of stuff. So we'll plan another one. And it really should either be Bretonnians or Orcs and Goblins, because those are the 2 armies that have arcane journals. So we have the complete picture to look at them and talk about the armies.
We won't be saying, this unit's really good. I hope that they get something in the Arcane Journal.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're listening and you're on our Discord, then please let us know, would you prefer Bretonnians or Orcs and Goblins? And if you're not on our Discord, join our Discord, rankandflank.com/Discord, and then click that link and come and say hi and throw shade at whatever it is that we're saying, or
Because we're all idiots.
if you're raging at your device as you're listening to us, then we want to hear from you. Well, whatever.
Call now.
Call now. Operators are standing by. Yeah, that was all I had to say. So we will do another one, and eventually we'll get through all of the factions. But
Once Games Workshop does, yeah.
yeah, but I'm not in a hurry to do them.
Neither is Games Workshop.
And they do take a bit of prep and thinking about to kind of really go through and read all of the things and build some test army lists and understand what the meta is, blah blah blah. So whereas this sort of episode we can just sit down and record. It's much easier, a little lighter on the prep side. So anyway, there we go. That's all I had to say. That was my final thoughts. Also, welcome to Mark and Ben. It was really fun having you both on, and glad you're going to be part of the crew.
Yeah, it was a total pleasure to be here. It's I mean, there's no video on this podcast, so you can't see what's happening, but I have had so much trouble speaking into this microphone. And so apologies for anyone if my voice just sounds really distant all of a sudden, or it sounds like I'm in a bathroom or at the end of a long, dark tunnel. I move around a lot, and this is very new to me, but I will get better at it, I promise. And
What did you say, Ben? Couldn't hear you from there.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, I'd like to echo Ben's sentiment.
Oh, very funny.
Oh dear.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, well, I think you have to end things on a pun.
I think that is a good place to end things indeed. Until next time, this has been Rank and Flank. Thank you very much for listening. Let's get out of here.